I love watching other people pick their monthly TBR. I feel very strange about the whole cancel culture thing. I have decided to kind of bring back the TBR cart, and it's a little bit different. So you know what? This one will actually be perfect. And I'm like, do I really want to start a whole other fantasy series? Hello, sweet friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Kirsten, and I really like books. I am a very busy mom who, honestly, reading is what brings me so much joy, and I got back into reading after I had my first baby. When you are stuck in that nap trap and there's nothing else to do and you're tired of scrolling your phone. So that's when books became a huge part of my life again. And how many years later? 5 years later, here we are. And now I have a room in my house totally dedicated to my hobby that has taken over my obsessive personality. So I am here on your screen because we are only like 4 days away from April. March flew by. March was a crazy month for me. Health-wise, I had a few things going on where I didn't get as much reading done as I normally do. So it was kind of like a reading slump type month, but a mixture of health reasons and some of the books that I was reading as well. So make sure you stay tuned for my March reading wrap up. I still have 2 books from my March TBR list that I am hoping to maybe finish. So cross your fingers. I can get In Her League by Liz Tomforty and Gleam by Raven Kennedy done so that I can talk about those ones as well as some of the other juicy books that I read in March with you guys. But let's get to my favorite part of becoming a booktuber, and the whole reason why I started this channel is because I love watching other people pick their monthly TBRs on YouTube. I do it all the time when I'm folding laundry. So I was like, I want to do that myself because I was having FOMO. Here we are about to pick my April TBR. So if you also didn't know, I actually run a fun little book club. I host most of the things on Patreon, but we also chat a little bit in Instagram DMs. That's where the whole book club actually started, was Instagram. In my For the Joy of Reading book club, every month I give the girls a fresh prompt card to work from. There's always 4 prompts that are kind of related to the month, the season that we're in, as well as an optional group read. So these are the books that we are voting on currently, and this one is the winner. So if you want to join the book club and read this book alongside us, I would love to see you there. So all of that information is in the description below. Make sure you click on that and join the club because it's just a fun way of tackling your TBR alongside a group of other women who find joy in reading. So here is a look at our April prompt card. It's all about out with the old and in with the new, because April to me feels like the start of spring. Even though the first day of spring is technically in March, I live in central Alberta and there is still snow on the ground. So it still doesn't even feel like spring outside to me, but usually by the end of April, that is when spring really kicks in for where I live. So I feel like my TBR needs to reflect that, and we need some fun, fresh books for the month of April. So I'm filming in a new location because I have decided to kind of bring back the TBR cart, and it's a little bit different because what I've done is I have added my top 26 of 2026 books that I wanted to prioritize for this year. So all of those books are officially on this card. So when I am pulling my prompts, I'm not just willy-nilly picking whatever book on the shelf. I am going to try and prioritize these books, but I will also peruse around to my other shelves to also pick from there as well. But that is what we have going on here. I have 4 prompts that I pick from the group prompt card, and then I also pick 2 prompts from my TBR jar here, and then I kind of leave the rest of the month for mood reading if I do end up getting time to do so, because I have been averaging from anywhere from 8 to 10 books a month. So usually between the prompts that I pull, I still have a little bit of wiggle room to listen to an audiobook that I might get on Libby mid-month, or if there's a book that will not get off of my Bookish feed, whether I'm on Instagram or TikTok, and I'm like, I need to read that because everyone else is reading it, I have a little bit of room in my monthly TBR to do so. But let's go ahead and start with the 4 prompts from my book club's prompt card. Okay, so the first prompt is a book you have been procrastinating. So this is a good one, and I feel like I have been procrastinating a few of these books on my top 26 for 2026, either because they are the start of a new fantasy series, and I'm like, do I really want to start a whole other fantasy series? And you know what I ended up doing? I ended up spinning this book in a previous video, and I have yet to pick it up because I'm like, oh, I just want to get closer to the end of some other fantasy series. But I think it's time that I actually start it because I am so close to finishing the Plated Prisoner series that I feel like I could throw in another epic fantasy series here without, totally getting too confused with all of the different worlds. So for that one, I am going to go ahead and do The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This will technically be a reread for me because I did read this 4-ish years ago, I believe, but there are so many like novellas and interconnected series within this world that I really want to get to and that are sitting on my shelf. And I have yet to read them because I'm like, I feel like it's been so long since I've read this book that I don't really remember a whole lot about it. I do remember I loved this book the first time that I read it, and I always tell myself that I look forward to keeping the books that I have on my shelf because I would love to reread them one day, but have yet to do that with a lot of these books. So I feel like I do need to start rereading some of my favorite books every once in a while just to revisit those worlds. And because, like I said, there's a bunch of other books that Carissa Broadbent has written that are in this world and connected to this first initial book, I feel like I have procrastinated it, but now it is time that I go ahead and start this world again. So the first book on our April TBR is a book that I have been procrastinating, and that one is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Okay, the next prompt on the card is the last book you acquired or purchased. Okay, so I've pulled 3 books from that prompt. 2 of them came from my latest Book of the Month subscription box, and then the other was a pre-order from Indigo that came in the mail the other day. And that one is Blood and Roses by Callie Hart, Volume 1. I am a Quicksilver girly. As you can see behind me, there is Kingfisher. So on the back, it says, "What happens in the dark never stays in the dark. As one of Seattle's most dangerous, feared men, Zeth Mayfair always carried out the jobs he was sent on without a second thought. Drugs, guns, dirty money, all fair game, but even his warped moral code has its limits. When Zeth's employer decides buying and selling kidnapped women is a lucrative sideline, Zeth's usual uncomplicated life suddenly becomes very complicated indeed, and his biggest complication comes by the name of Sloane Romera. Sloane desperately needs to find her sister, and she knows she can't do it alone. Zeth is terrifying, scandalously hot, and comes fully loaded with a terrible attitude and wicked smile. It also looks like he's Sloane's only hope. Can she work with the guy without getting herself killed, losing her job, or falling head over heels in love?" So a very different vibe from the romantasy book of hers that I am a diehard fan of. So I'm very interested to see how her dark romance writing will be. So this is definitely a contender for that one. Next, we have And Now Back to You by BK Borson. This was from my last Book of the Month subscription box, and this was like an add-on that you could purchase in the box. I absolutely loved First Time Callers by her. That book sat on my shelf for a whole entire year before I picked it up, and it was such a crime because that was a 5-star read for me. It says, Jackson Clark and Delilah Stewart have had their fair share of run-ins over the years, often ending in disaster. While Jackson thrives on a routine and organization from the comfort of his radio booth, Delilah loves the spontaneity and adventure out in the field. When they're partnered against their will to cover a historic snowstorm, they find themselves scrambling to figure out how to work together. Eager to be taken seriously as a journalist, Delilah offers Jackson a deal. If he can help her ace this assignment, with an unexplored chemistry burning beneath their clashes, the unlikely partnership quickly tumbles into an easy and surprising friendship. But when other feelings start to enter the equation, can Jackson and Delilah withstand the storm, or does what happens in the mountains stay in the mountains? Okay, so this is giving snowy vibes, obviously with it being in a snowstorm. So I'm not gonna lie, I am sick of the snow, so I don't think I want to read about a snowstorm. This might be one that we leave for when the snow decides to come back again later on in the year. And then the only other book that I've recently purchased is This Story Might Save Your Life by Tiffany Crum. This was another book of the month purchase. Usually I don't gravitate towards thriller mystery vibe books, but this one I just couldn't pass. Here is what the description is. Benny Abbott and Joy Moore host one of the most beloved podcasts in the world. Each week, they delight listeners with a different, against all odds survival story, gleefully finding the weird, life-affirming humor in near-death experiences. Since their first episode on Joy's experience with severe narcolepsy, they've been the best friends everyone wants to befriend. And thanks to the meticulous management of Joy's husband, Xander, they've built a lucrative empire. The problem is, their next survival story may be their own. When Benny arrives at Joy and Xander's home one morning to record, he finds shattered glass and an empty house. So I'll leave it there because that's just too juicy and I don't want to give away all the details. But this one sounds really good. And honestly, out of the three, I feel like I'm more gravitating towards this one because the covers kind of feel springy like to me. I haven't read a thriller mystery in a while, and I feel like it's time we add one to the TBR. The book that I'm picking for the prompt of a book that I have recently purchased or acquired is This Story Might Save Your Life by Tiffany Crum. Okay, so this next one very much goes with the theme of out with the old, in with the new, because the next prompt is a book that's been on your TBR the longest. I have quite a few books like that on my shelf that when I discovered Book Outlet, things went wild, okay? I started purchasing books left, right, and center. I feel like I blacked out with the amount of books that I bought there last year after I discovered that website. So there are quite a few books that we could use for that prompt. So I'm going to go ahead and collect some of those and come back to you guys. Okay, I've got 3 books here that we could pick from for that prompt. So the first one is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I feel very strange about the whole cancel culture thing on the Bookish space. Not a lot of people like Colleen Hoover, so I always feel weird when I have authors like that on my shelf. And I'm like, how are people going to perceive me because I'm reading this book, but everyone hates this author, blah, 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 blah. But like, I didn't know these things when I first started in the bookish space. I was just here for the joy of reading books, and I am still here for the joy of reading books. And if I spent money on a book, why would I throw it in the trash or tell people not to read it? Or, you know what I mean? It's just weird to me. But anyways, I do have It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover on my shelf, and I have not read this book. I have not watched the movies. I have read a few of her books, and I've honestly really enjoyed every single book of hers that I have read. There hasn't been one where I didn't feel emotional or connect with a character or have a good time reading that book. So I am very interested to see what this book is all about. And it is kind of giving spring if we do look at the cover with all of the flowers. So this is a contender for that prompt. Next, we have Neon Gods by Kate Robert. I have the whole entire series of this on my shelf, and they are all like retellings of different like Greek mythology couples. This one is between Persephone's and Hades. I do love a Persephone's and Hades retelling or story based on those two because I do love that kind of vibe, like the Hades vibe in my mailman characters. This one is also a contender. And then last option we have is Sarah J. Maas' House of Sky and Breath, which is the second book in the Crescent City series. But I am doing a reread of ACOTAR as well as finishing the Crescent City series with my book club. Starting in May, we are working our way through one book in the ACOTAR series a month leading up to the new release of books 6 and 7. And then some of us are also going to be doing a read of the Crescent City series as we get closer to October. So I did read book 1. I wasn't a huge fan of it, if I'm being honest with you. I enjoyed the last 100 pages maybe when the big war fight scene happens at the end, but I really did struggle through the rest of it. So that's why I have not picked up this book. And this book probably has been on my shelf, you guys, for up to 4 years because it took me that long to actually read the first one. And then because I wasn't interested in it and I'd already purchased this one, I was like, I guess it's just going to sit there and maybe I'll pick it up one day, maybe I won't. But now with the new release, and everyone says that there is a little bit of crossover with this series and ACOTAR. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is my sign to actually give this one a try. So I will not be picking this one now, but I will be picking it up later on in the year. So that leaves our choice between these two books. And I honestly feel because we are in spring, and this book has been on my shelf for a really long time, I am going to pick It Ends With Us for the prompt, a book that has been on my TBR or on my shelf the longest. The last one is a book that feels like spring. I love this prompt. I put that in there because, again, we needed some fun spring, freshy vibes for our April TBR. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a few books, definitely some books off of this shelf, and maybe a couple other very spring-like looking books over there on my other shelves. So the 3 books that I picked for this prompt are Rainbow Rowell's Slow Dance. This is a second chance romance, I believe, but for some reason, the green, the flowers, even like slow dancing, for some reason, it's giving me spring vibes. Back in high school, everybody thought Shiloh and Carrie would end up together. Everybody but Shiloh and Carrie were just friends, best friends, allies. They spent entire summers sitting on Shiloh's porch steps dreaming about the future. They were both going to get out of North Omaha. Shiloh would go to college and become an actress, and Carrie would join the Navy. They promised each other that their friendship would never change. Well, Shiloh did go to college and Carrie did join the Navy, and yet somehow everything changed. Now Shiloh's 33 and it's been 14 years since she talked to Carrie. She's been married and divorced. She has 2 kids and she's back living in the same house she grew up in. Her life is nothing like she planned. When she's invited to an old friend's wedding, all Shiloh can think about is whether Carrie will be there and whether she hopes he will be there. Would Carrie even want to talk to her after everything? The answer is yes and yes and yes. Slow Dance is the story of 2 kids who fell in love before they knew enough about love to recognize it. 2 friends who lost everything, 2 adults who just feel lost. This one sounds super cute and super sad. So this is option 1. Option 2 is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I have yet to read any of the Rebecca Ross books. I've heard so many good things about Divine Rivals. So if you're not familiar with what Divine Rivals is about, in the book it says, after centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again. But 18-year-old Iris Winnow just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction. Her brother is missing from the front. Her best bet is to win the columnist promotion at the Oath Gazette. To combat her worries, Iris writes letters to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe door, where they vanish into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the two of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of battle. For her brother, the fate of mankind, and love. Divine Rivals is an epic enemies to lovers fantasy novel filled with hope and heartbreak and the paralleled power of love. It's not screaming spring, but like it could be springy, right? I'm not too sure. Is this a good time to read it in the spring? The flowers on the cover are what's giving me spring. So anyways, this is option 2. And then one of the books that I did pick off my top 26 of 2026 priority reads, which I feel like is maybe giving spring vibes, is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. And again, this is another one of those authors where people get all up in arms about them, but I special ordered these covers because to me, they are probably the most stunning covers on a book that I have ever seen. So these came all the way from somewhere in England. And they are absolutely just as beautiful in person. And I was so excited when I got them. When I was reading as like a tween teenager, I was reading the Gossip Girl books, and then it got turned into a TV show, and then I absolutely loved watching those TV shows. So I've heard this is kind of like Gossip Girl, but like set it in England instead. And like on the cover, we've got the tree and the deer. So let's just read the back to see if it still screams spring. How many loves do you get in a lifetime? She is beautiful, self-involved, and mildly neurotic London socialite. He is Britain's most photographed bad boy who broke her heart. But Magnolia Parks and BJ Ballantyne are meant to be, aren't they? So basically, it's more so the cover that's feeling spring to me than probably what the content of the actual book is all about. So this one is actually a really hard choice for me. You know what? We are going to go ahead and pick Magnolia Parks because I feel like out of those 3, this cover screams springtime the most. For a book that feels like spring, I'm going to go ahead and pick Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. Okay, so those are the 4 books that I will be reading based on the prompt card with my book club. Now it's time to pick 2 prompts out of my little TBR jar here to add a little bit of mystery as to what kind of prompts that I will pick, because obviously I do create the prompt card where I pick those 4 prompts, so I know that those are the prompts going in. But I love seeing TBR jar picks because you never know what you're going to get from the TBR jar, so that's why I love watching those kinds of videos so much. So let's go ahead and pick out 2 prompts from the prompt jar. Oh, this one says a book featuring a strong female lead. So you know what? This one will actually be perfect. I'm about 30% of the way through the book Gleam by Raven Kennedy. And Oren, our main FMC, just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And this is a very much like character-driven plot for this series. And in every book, she overcomes something so tragic and heartbreaking. So I feel like I'm going to go ahead and pick, I believe the next one is Gold in the series, and that will be my choice for a book with a strong female lead, because I also have set a goal for myself to actually complete some of these fantasy series that I have started. And because it is a completed series, I can actually complete that series and check it off my list entirely, because after Gold, there's only one more book, Goldfinch. So I will be so happy to actually get through that series and be able to put that world to rest when I am done with it. Let's see what the jar has next for our last prompt. Really shake it up. Read a book that scares you emotionally or literally. Okay, this is quite the pick because there are quite a few on here that I am emotionally scared to read. But I also feel like one of the books that I had already showed you guys was one that I've been scared to read because people say it is very emotional. And that book is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. And so I feel like this is just meant to be because I do have it ready to borrow on my Libby app. So I'm going to go ahead straight over to Libby right now and say, yes, I am in fact ready to borrow that book from you. So let's go into our notifications. Oh, no, it wasn't that one. Actually, The Song of Achilles. Should I borrow that one instead? Yeah, that one scares me emotionally because it is a very sad book. Oh, should I do that one, you guys? Oh, you know what? I think we're going to do that one for that one instead. So we are going to put Divine Rivals back because now that I think about it, I feel like this is giving more of a fall vibe than a spring vibe. So we're going to go ahead and borrow The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and that is going to be our choice for a book I'm scared of because I know it's going to emotionally wreck me. Okay, you guys, I feel like April is going to be a very interesting reading month. We have a huge range when it comes to the books that I am reading, and I'm actually kind of scared to see if these are all going to be like life-changing reads that are going to keep me out of a reading slump, or if they are all going to possibly put me into a reading slump. I am actually going to be doing a reread or a re-listen to Shield of Sparrows by Devony Perry because the second book, Rights of the Starling, are coming out in April. I didn't really love most of the book for Shield of Sparrows because I found the FMC to be very annoying and very much like, woe is me, very weak, not a lot of backbone. Like, usually I like my fantasy FMCs to be a little bit stronger and a little less like, ooh, scared and meek and mild. Like, I love FMCs in my fantasy world to pack a punch and be able to hold their own. This is my theory though. I feel like the FMC in this series is going to start out that way and then become stronger and a lot more likable as the series continues. Kind of a lot like how the Plated Prisoners series started. She kind of drove a lot of people nuts, but like I have experienced, as the books go on, you love her more and more. And I do feel like that is a possibility for some of the characters in Shield of Sparrows because I loved the magical creature aspect of that, and the ending of that book was so exciting. So I am going to do a re-listen of that book as well. And then if I do have time and if the reviews for Rights of the Starling are good, I am going to go ahead and read that book as well in the month of April. And I did just order Rewind It Back by Liz Tom 40, and I do really want to get to that book. So that is a book that I will also possibly be trying to get to for the month of April if I do have time to squeeze it in. I am looking forward to seeing how the rest of the month of April is going to be with all of these amazing books. There is a lot of range in my April TBR, and I am both excited and petrified of these books. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give this a thumbs up and possibly subscribe if you want more fun bookish type videos. And I just want you to make sure that whatever book you are reading today, it does bring you some kind of joy. Bye, guys.